Pablo, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? First one in, let's go. JP, good to see you, brother. How you doing? Evening, how you been? Susie, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Mike, good day. Miles of CMF, let's go. Mike, how you doing? How you been, brother? Okay. I'm just pinning the live, so it's the first thing everyone sees when they go into my profile. Okay. One day I'll beat you, Pablo. Lol. Yeah, Pablo's always the first one in. You know, the moment I go live, the very second, Pablo's the first one in. So let's do the intro disclaimer. By that time, everyone's tuned in for the first part of the live, because there's a few things happening that everybody should be fully aware about. And honestly, you know, regarding why the market has went down, which is what we're going to discuss in the first part of the live also. But welcome to the CMF Live. If you're watching this for the first time ever, the CMF stands for Crypto Miles Family. My name is Miles. You can tune to this live Monday to Friday, 10 p.m. London time onwards, where I share the most recent news regarding cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, and regulations. Pretty much vital information for you to know about regarding the world completely transforming into a digital space. Also, just a quick reminder that we are heading towards, you could even say we are spearheading towards a very, very controlled world. At a very rapid pace, you could pretty much see. So CBDC world is not that far off now that the censorship is starting to kick in. So an indication of how far we are from a CBDC world. So being informed about the crypto space could pretty much down the line, you could even say save your life if you understand what cryptocurrencies are and which cryptocurrencies can benefit you in the world that we're heading towards, which is censorship or a digital prison, you could even say. You can't see the bars, but they're going to be there. But anyways, the disclaimer of this live, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. We also do Q&As in this live as well, which means if you do have any questions or any statements to make, put it down in the comment section. More than happy to answer any questions you may have. So let's go through the comment section first before we go through the first news on tonight's live. And obviously, we're going to discuss about why the market is down today. I'm going to go through some Fed data reports as well. Obviously, the reports for the golden jobs are going to go through. Also, some Ripple news to go through on tonight's live. Some other news related to those geopolitical tensions and tariffs and so many other things that are happening that all have some sort of a strain on the market space right now. Before we go for the first news, let's go to the comment section first. I just want to take a second just to say thank you so much to everybody who has essentially already liked and essentially retweeted this live on X. If you're watching this on X right now, thank you so much to everybody who has already liked and retweeted this live. So far, we have 4 likes and 4 retweets, par on par. Honestly, thank you so much to the 4 CMF members who have already liked and retweeted this live on X. If you watch this on YouTube, thank you so much who has also liked the live as well. If you watch this on YouTube, if you haven't CMF members liked or retweeted, please like and retweet. Now, let's go inside the comment section first. As I send them, go straight to the first news of why the market is down and when it's pretty much the bounce back. Hey, brother Miles, the CMF comatose. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been, brother? Hi, brother. Come on, good to see you. How you doing? How you been, brother? Hello, Miles, the CMF. Scott, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? I hope that everyone had a good day. Let's go, Scott. Good luck, Susie, is what Pablo says regarding being first in. Share the live, Scott. Let's go. I haven't been first in month. I have to get quicker. Lol. Greetings, Miles. Lena, good to see you. How you doing? How you been, my friend? Let's go, Scott. So, first news on tonight's live is regarding the reports that come out. Now, there's 2 parts to it. One is relatable to essentially the data that's come out regarding jobs. And the second part essentially is tariffs. So here's the first part. Donald Trump essentially announced he will fire the head of Statistics Bureau of essentially for publishing bad data. According to Donald Trump, the report that came out regarding the jobs report was politically incorrect, and that essentially the data was manipulated. So here it is. US President Donald Trump announced today that he has ordered the immediate dismissal of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS Director Eric, following the release of the weak employment data in July. In a post on Truth Social, Trump accused essentially Eric of essentially politicizing employment data, calling her a Biden political appointee. No concrete evidence was presented for those accusations, so Trump hasn't came out with some sort of evidence of why Erica might be manipulating data regarding jobs to crash the market space, or essentially being weaponized by some politicians. Should we believe Trump? I would say yes. Look, in this world, in the life you're living right now, question everything, because everything around you is a lie, pretty much. Honestly, we live in a world with greed and power being the number one source. God doesn't even rank in the top 5 in this world, unfortunately. Greed and power ranking number 1 and number 2. So when you have greedy, money-hungry people leading the world, expect the data to be manipulated, is essentially what Trump is trying to say. Bitcoin's price essentially experienced another sudden drop following the development of the job reports coming out. The stock market crashed slightly, so Bitcoin followed in suit, and the crypto market still follows Bitcoin's footsteps because we don't have regulations still in place. I have structured my team to immediately remove this Biden political appointee. She will be replaced by someone far more competent and qualified. Such crucial data must be fair and accurate and cannot be manipulated for political purposes, he said. According to BLS's report that was released today, non-farm payrolls increased by only 73,000 essentially in July. Furthermore, essentially data for previous 2 months was revised downwards by a total of approximately 260,000. The average employment gain for the past 3 months was only 35,000, marking essentially the weakest performance by a post-pandemic era. Erica was appointed by former President Joe Biden in 2023 and took office after receiving Senate confirmation at the beginning of 2024. The BLS has not yet released a statement on the matter regarding Trump calling her incompetent, basically, and politicized to essentially give out wrong data. Employment data is generated through 3-month survey process. However, the initial company response rate has recently fallen below 60%. Before the pandemic, this rate was typically above 70%. Furthermore, the BLS issue major annual essential revisions each February, based on essentially on more robust but delayed data. The annual estimate released for 2024 was one of the largest revisions since 2009. While addressing these revisions in his post, Trump also had harsh words for the Fed chairman, Jerome Powell. He argued that the Fed was playing around with interest rates and said Jerome Powell should retire now. Crypto assets, including Bitcoin, Ethereum, and major altcoins, saw a significant decline alongside essentially equities due to renowned US tariff fears also. The event triggered large-scale liquidations, especially in highly leveraged positions, impacting market sentiments and liquidity. Both retail and institutional investors closely monitoring the situation. The US has essentially signed an executive order for imposing tariffs on ranging from 10% to 41% on essentially 69 countries right now. This move, coupled with the macroeconomic pressures that are going on, for example, the job report, has led to significant decline in crypto stocks and digital assets. Key players include the US executive branch under President Trump, essentially, with no statements from crypto leaders like Vitalik or CZ. The market reacts primarily to tariff implications. The immediate impact on markets saw crypto stocks and essentially traditional equities decline, causing concerns among investors. Macroeconomic events and pressures intensified the situation, affecting Bitcoin and Ethereum and other major digital assets. Financial implications include a major liquidity event with $570 million in crypto long positions liquidated. The tariffs drive essentially a shift in market sentiments, reflecting broader economic challenges. Arthur Hayes, the CEO of BitMEX, noted, "The market is reacting to aggressive tariff policies, and we are witnessing a sharp capital withdrawal from high leverage positions. Institutional interest shifts as whales accumulation increases." By the way, even though the market seems to be upside down for the time being, that the market is all over the place due to tariff situations, and now the politicized essentially data that Trump is calling it has just come out, the institutions are actually still buying. While there's panic selling going on inside the crypto space, the institutions are still buying, they're positioning themselves, because let's not forget what's happening next. It's all about regulations and institutions. The overall market sentiment remains cautious in volatility. Regulatory effects remain limited, with no new measures from major essentially bodies following the tariff impositions. Historical patterns suggest that the macroeconomic shocks often correlate with crypto volatility, as seen in previous market downtrends. So data report comes out regarding jobs. It wasn't what was expected, so the market reacted in a negative way. By market, I mean stock market. When the stock market reacted in a negative way, crypto reacted in a negative way. Why? Because Bitcoin tends to still follow the stock market. And also, in scenarios like this is where Bitcoin is supposed to play the role of a alternative asset, a safe haven, or a risk-off asset. I don't know what it is, but the Bitcoin maxis always go very silent when Bitcoin doesn't react the way it's supposed to do. This is the time when Bitcoin is supposed to react in a positive way. You know, the traditional market space, the labor market space, the tariff situation, macroeconomic situation, geopolitical tensions that are going on. Bitcoin should be reacting like a safe haven, like gold, doing well for itself. But it isn't. It's just a bit odd, you know? I feel like getting a stick, honestly, I feel like getting a stick and just poking Bitcoin and just telling it to wake up. You know, this is your time to shine. You're a safe haven, aren't you? After employment data, the senior Fed officials of Bostic talks about rate cuts. What does he expect? So, Atlanta's Fed president, Ralph Bostic, told essentially CNBC today that July employment data suggests risks in essentially labor markets and may increase later on. The economic outlook, despite the data, today's data and the revisions suggest the economy and the labor market may be weakening more essentially broadly than what we're seeing in Atlanta's Fed area, Bostic said. Still, he maintained essentially that this week's interest rate discussions was the right one, adding that this data wouldn't have changed our decision. Downward revisions to July's data revealed that the employment growth has lost momentum, Bostic said. The data essentially also suggests that the labor market is slowing down, but it remains strong in many aspects. He noted that essentially there hasn't received any significant signals from companies about layoffs, adding that unemployment concerns are not yet prevalent at this stage. Bostic said that going into this week, I thought the inflation risk was greater than the employment risk. However, today, I see that these two risks become more balanced, recalling this delicate balance between the Fed's dual goals of employment and price stability. Bostic stated that the risks on both sides must be clearly monitored. Bostic who also commented on the trade tariffs, said that the customs duties could have longer, essentially lasting impacts on consumer psychology. Customs duties don't essentially work as described in the textbooks, he said, emphasizing the complexities of this process. Bostic, who maintains his forecast for 2025 interest rate cuts based on current data, said, "We need to reassess our views as new data becomes available." He also noted that there is an active debate about how restrictive the Fed's policies currently are. A lot of people are coming out right now, essentially, in terms of analysts are coming out and CEOs and board members are coming out and saying, now is the time to have rate cuts. September, we should be expecting a rate cut. Some are even suggesting that we should be having 2 rate cuts in September. Because now that we're about to be having a soft landing, rate cuts should be expected, especially with this new report that's come out. On the other side of the spectrum, it's Trump who's saying essentially this report is false, and that essentially the person that came out with the report from the Citizens of essentially Bureau of Labor is lying. The data is manipulated and so on. So we have Trump's perspective that the data is completely manipulated and politicized, and she's weaponized by Biden's previous administration. On the other side, we have analysts and essentially CEOs and CTOs with their own perspectives that, according to this data, we should be expecting rate cuts, at least 2 rate cuts in September. The moment we do get rate cuts, the market is going to blast off like it's a NASA launch into the moon, because we haven't had rate cuts for such a long time that the moment we get rate cuts, it's just going to be rocket fuel. The longer it takes to get rate cuts, the more the rocket fuel is just going to go higher and not run out. Honestly. The longer it takes to get rate cuts, the bigger the blast is going to be the moment we do get rate cuts. So just think of it as like a countdown. Do you know there's a countdown before the rocket goes to the moon? 10, 9, 8. Think of it like that. And then when the rate cuts hit, it's 1, 0 rocket blast off. Now, Tether is what we're going to talk about. Or think of it as like a string. Someone's just pulling it back. Tether is what we talk about next, but before we talk about Tether, let's go inside the comment section. And by the way, this isn't going to last too long. Max, next week, the market will be back to normal. Regarding this data, everybody will forget about the data next week and the market will be back to normal. Now, let's go inside the comment section first before we do go through the first news, before we do go through the next news. And as I said previously, this is live, which means if you do have any questions or even statements to make, put it down inside the comment section. More than happy to help you out. So let's see where we are at, and then we go straight into the next news. Let's see. We were at here. Good evening, Miles. Luke, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Hello to Miles and CMF members. I love you. Let's go, Scott. That is goodbye time, pretty much. Hi, Miles and family. Alex, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Hello, Miles and CMF. Orphan, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Hi, Miles and CMF. Golden Dragon, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Let's go, CMF. Let's go, JP. What up, Miles and CMF? Happy Friday. Hope all is well. Let's go. Let's go, Ray. How you doing? How you been, brother? Family, I am all in on XRP, XLM, XTC, HBAR, ACH, SEI, and Flare. Let's go, Scott. Miles, what about WAL? I'll take a look into it and give you a perspective on it after the live, no problem. Miles, please hit the like button for Miles. Let's go, Golden Dragon. And hello, my friend. Let's go, Scott. Definitely, if you haven't already liked the live or retweeted this live and you're watching this on X, like and retweet. If you're watching this essentially on YouTube, please like if you already haven't. Now, Tether. Who is loving this situation right now? Stablecoins do the best in times like this. They print a lot, and then essentially when the market bounces back, the amount of money that was printed will enter into crypto projects. Not all of it, some of it, or most of it. So, Tether right now. Tether has confirmed its supremacy with $5.7 billion in profits in 6 months. Because of the up and downs we've had inside the market space, the amount of printing Tether has done so far, they can pretty much say that they're printing profits right now. While some essentially crypto projects face regulatory essentially and financial storms, the issue is of USDT keeps essentially posting record results. With $5.7 billion in profits over 6 months, including essentially $4.9 billion in the second quarter alone, the company is carving a gold path in the stablecoin universe. The second quarter of 2025 will remain a turning point in Tether's history, posting $4.9 billion in net essential profits over 3 months and a boom for Tether's gold. The company surpasses historical institutions. This figure is essentially no coincidence. It stems essentially from careful but aggressive management of its reserves. Tether holds $127 billion in US Treasury bonds, including $105.5 billion directly. This makes it the 18th largest global holder of US debt, ahead of South Korea, the CEO of Tether essentially said. He also wanted to say, we don't just follow global demand, we shape global demand. Another essentially strong sign, in 2025, the company issued an additional $20 billion in USDT, bringing the circuit supply to $157 billion. Moreover, the excess reserves, essentially about $5.47 billion, ensures there is resilience to the market's shock. Finally, the profits essentially don't just come from classic markets. Gold and Bitcoin represent $2.6 billion in mark-to-market gains, proof of controlled diversification. What stands out essentially is the diversity essentially of initiatives and Tether's coherence. At the helium, a team betting on infrastructure. Whether though its investments in essentially Rumble wallets or XSI Capital, Tether reinvests its profits into the backbone of the crypto finance, they're saying. Facing regulatory essentially evolution, notably the Genius Act signed by Trump, Tether plays the cards of indirect compliance. It stays out of the European scopes but imposes its transparency standards in a point of being recognized by full financial stability. The real question is Tether going to be able to operate the moment essentially the US starts approving stablecoins? They passed the Genius Act. When they start approving stablecoins, is it going to pass through? But what I can tell you essentially is that moments like this, where there's still a little bit of uncertainty inside the market space, Tether is thriving in profits right now. But the moment stablecoins get approved inside the United States, maybe that won't continue for Tether. Now, it's not just Tether that essentially, as a stablecoin, USDT is doing quite well for itself. Stablecoins in general do very well in times like this. They print a lot. Obviously, they have to back it. And then essentially that printed stablecoins will essentially enter the crypto market space once the market starts to bounce back. By next week, the market will be bouncing back. Now, Michael Saylor is what we're going to talk about on tonight's live. But before we go through Michael Saylor news, let's go start the comment section first, and then we'll go straight into Michael Saylor's newest interview. Consider variable change. Let's go on from it. Miles, do you think the USA will keep printing fiat dollars to buy crypto? Yes. Do I think the Fed essentially is going to keep on printing money? Yes, 100%. Because it's too, for them, it's, they don't want to switch off the printing machine until the last second. The same way Gary Gensler left until, Gary Gensler waited until the last second. Trump becomes president, and then he left office. Think of it the same scenario. The Fed is going to keep that printer on until the last second before they have to pull the plug. Hi, Miles and CMF. Good to see you, George. How you doing? How you been? Now, strategy outlines bold Bitcoin goals as it leads corporate adoption. Michael Saylor has once again shown strong support for the world-leading cryptocurrency, Bitcoin. Speaking essentially at a recent interview with CNBC, Saylor said the strategy may one day hold as much as 1.5 million Bitcoins. That would essentially be nearly 7% of all Bitcoin in global circulation. This is a clear sign that the company plans to continue buying more Bitcoin. It also shows that Saylor's firm belief that the flagship crypto is the best choice for long-term store of value. That's his opinion, and in my opinion, it's really not, but that's his opinion. As a result, essentially of August 1st, 2025, strategy essentially leads the corporate Bitcoin strategy, holding 628,791 Bitcoins. About 3% of Bitcoin's total supply is held by strategy. At current essential market prices, that stash is worth over $40 billion. However, Saylor essentially believes the company could grow its holdings much more in the future. He explained that reaching 1.5 million Bitcoins is possible, although essentially it may not have essentially happened all at once. The executive chairman described the top coins as digital capital, a new kind of money that essentially powers Strategy's business model. The company raises funds by offering preferred stocks, then uses that money to buy more Bitcoin. This method essentially lowers the risk for shareholders and creates a way to earn returns. Recently, a planned stock offering of $500 million was increased to $2.5 billion due to essentially high demands. It became the largest public stock essentially offering so far this year, showing how strong investors' interest has become towards crypto assets. During the interview, Saylor pointed out that more companies are starting to hold Bitcoin as a part of their business strategy. It's true, a lot of companies around the world have followed MicroStrategy's footsteps, mainly to do with boosting their stock prices. To be fairly honest, there's a lot of public companies out there that weren't doing too well on the stock market, and some people didn't even know who the hell they were. And in Japan's case with Metaplanet, it was a failing company. All of a sudden, Metaplanet becomes essentially a billion-dollar company, you could pretty much say, and they're essentially making their first purchase of buying a bank now. So, once other companies that are failing on the stock market see these types of movements happening, obviously they're going to be jumping on the bandwagon when the stock's not doing too good. And to go on the news and announce, we're becoming a Bitcoin company, and hoping on the chances that essentially their stocks will go through the roof. In some cases, in most cases, they do. Firms including Capital B, Smarter Web, and 21, a firm backed by Anthony, essentially Japanese-based Metaplanet, have joined the movement. As essentially he further explained, big tech companies like Apple and Microsoft are limited in how they invest in their profits. The reason essentially why companies like Apple and Microsoft won't risk their companies of entering essentially into a Bitcoin treasury only is that essentially they don't need the money, you could pretty much say. Companies like Apple and Microsoft are very heavily invested into AI technology rather than essentially Bitcoin, because in their eyes, they see AI as much more viable asset than essentially Bitcoin itself. But the reason why companies like Metaplanet, 21, essentially Capital B, Smarter Web, all these essentially scientific companies and essentially in Canada and so on, the reason why these companies, essentially these public companies, are entering into Bitcoin is because their stocks were doing terrible. But now they're essentially became Bitcoin companies, their stocks are going through the roof. Microsoft does not need a boost on the stock market, to be fairly honest. It's ranking number 1. As a result, essentially, and they essentially face restrictions on buying into the broader S&P 500, which is here or there. As a result, some are now turning to Bitcoin as an alternative store of value. He believes that digital currencies is replacing other assets like gold, foreign property, and public stocks. Yes, true, but up to a certain extent. Regarding stocks, it's not getting essentially, wiped off, clean off the map. It's actually just becoming tokenized. So the stock market is technically not, blockchain is not replacing the stock market. Blockchain is going to advance the stock market by tokenizing it. So that was wrong for essentially to be saying that. The second thing, essentially, he said that essentially cryptocurrencies will be replacing foreign properties or essentially real estate in general, which is also incorrect. Blockchain is going to advance real estate by tokenizing the market space also. And he said that essentially blockchain is going to replace gold, which again, that's incorrect. Gold is just going to become tokenized on the blockchain. Nothing is replacing gold. Blockchain is just going to advance gold by tokenizing it on the market space, so it's easier to buy and sell gold. But nothing's replacing gold. Gold will always remain there, and so will silver, and so will the other materials essentially around the world that have a lot of high cost and value. They're just going to become tokenized, not going to get replaced, which is better for the market space anyways, because it brings that value on chain. Strategy's financial performance has also been strong. In the most recent quarter, the company reported earnings of essentially $32.52 per share. This result was far above the expectations, which had predicted a loss of essentially 9 cents. This shows that the company's Bitcoin-focused strategy is working well. And other companies essentially are also increasing their Bitcoin holdings. Coinbase, one of the largest cryptocurrency exchanges, reportedly added 2,509 Bitcoins in the second quarter. This makes essentially Coinbase one of the top 10 public companies holding Bitcoin, ahead of even Tesla. So MicroStrategy Michael Saylor did an interview with CNBC where he talks about he's still heavily involved in Bitcoin. Nothing's going to stop him in his footsteps. He's aiming to own 7% of essentially Bitcoin's total supply. Is going to be owned essentially by MicroStrategy somewhere down the road, in his own words. Well, it adds confidence to Bitcoin, adds confidence towards the crypto market space, and that's what you got to respect about the man. The man does not give up, even though when he's wrong. Diversifying is always the best option, but now SEC is what we're going to talk about next. The SEC Crypto Task Force is hosting a US roundtable series. Before we talk about that, let's go start the comment section first. As I said previously, this is live, which means if you do have any questions or even statements, put them down in the comment section. More than happy to help you out, as I've always said. So let's go start the comment section first, and then we go straight into the SEC news next. Let's see where we're at inside the comment section. Hi everyone, Miles, nice seeing you. Ripple, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, Miles. I'm Crypto Gurus. I'm the Rebel. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Sup, Miles and CMF. Davey, good to see you as well, brother. How you doing? How you been? SEC Crypto is what we're talking about next. The SEC's Crypto Task Force is commencing a new series of roundtables across major US cities, led by Commissioner Hester Pierce, who's also known as the Crypto Mom because she's, very pro cryptocurrencies, to engage diverse crypto industry stakeholders starting August 4th. Starting August 4th, the SEC is going to be doing a series of roundtables essentially around the United States, talking about, cryptocurrencies, blockchain technology, tokenization, and so on and so on. These roundtables aim to inform regulatory approaches to crypto assets, affecting key cryptocurrencies, aimed at ongoing U.S. regulatory discussions, and DeFi advancements. The U.S. SEC Crypto Task Force will conduct a series of roundtables. This outreach aims to essentially shape regulatory approaches for crypto assets and engage on a broader range of industry participants across the nation. Led by Commissioner Hester Pierce, the roundtables will gather insights from smaller crypto projects. The initiative seeks to enhance regulatory clarity and incorporate essentially voices that were previously unrepresented. As Pierce essentially articulates, the task force is interested in hearing, especially from representatives of crypto-related projects that have 10 or fewer employees and less than 2 years old, emphasizing exclusive essentially outreach, overview of SEC Crypto Task Force and roadmap. This is great to see because it shows that the SEC, straight after the White House report that came out and essentially told the SEC and CFTC to start working with crypto companies and stop doing essentially throwing them hurdles. The SEC not only wants to hear from, massive blockchain companies, but the SEC now wants to hear from even blockchain startup companies that have less than 10 employees or essentially less than 5 employees or so on, and they're less than 2 years old. So the SEC is not only opening its doors to massive blockchain companies, but also opening its doors to startup companies that are inside the blockchain sector, which just shows that, you know, they are ready for innovation, you can pretty much say. They're opening their doors to innovation inside the United States by not just giving essentially a voice to massive blockchain companies, but also giving a voice to blockchain companies in general. The national tour signals a potential regulatory shift impacting crypto markets. Major cryptocurrencies may be affected, reflecting increased engagements with DeFi tokens and protocols. While exact financial impacts remain essentially unspecified, the roundtables could influence regulatory guidelines on crypto trading, custody, and tokenization, especially concerning DeFi. The SEC aims to foster dialogue about the future of financial regulations and their implications for stakeholders. Events in key cities throughout 2025 highlight essentially the tensions of grassroots industry perspectives. Pierce essentially insights at DeFi Roundtable's event historical precedents shows that the previous SEC collaborations have increased essentially influence liquidity and pricing for certain tokens. The current roundtables may lead to a new guidance affecting crypto industries and compliance landscapes. This is amazing to see coming out essentially from the SEC, you know, opening the doors to cryptocurrencies. But do you know what this also does? When the case for Ripple comes up, the SEC can't postpone it again. They have to drop this case. They have to drop the Ripple case moving forward, essentially, because they have no choice. With all the positivity they're trying to bring inside the crypto space and doing a crypto roundtable series going all over around America, trying to do a road trip about cryptocurrencies and DeFi and show that they're positive, they can't have an ongoing case about Ripple. So these are more indications of they're going to be dropping it very soon, or dropping it before deadline or on the deadline essentially was set on the 15th. Now, Trump is what we're going to talk about next again. So apparently, adding to the tariff situations and the politicized essentially data reports that came out today that had impacts on the market space, there's something else happening regarding geopolitical tensions that are going on with Russia and Ukraine. Apparently, Trump had a conversation with a member of essentially from Russia, and he didn't like the conversation whatsoever, was not impressed by it, and maybe felt insulted by Russia, Trump did. So Trump allegedly has sent 2 nuclear submarines somewhere near Russia. So here's what's also going on around the world, which could have or may have or major implications, depending on if it's, you know, gets to that level. US President Donald Trump reportedly ordered deployment of nuclear submarines in essentially response to Dmitri's remarks from Russia, yet no primary sources confirm this claim as of today. However, apparently there's been a Truth Social tweet that's been going around and it has reached the news. Unverified diplomatic tensions underscore potential market volatility, but primary crypto essentially assets remain unaffected due to this essential absence of confirmed governmental policy actions or direct market impacts. Reports surface suggest that US President Donald Trump ordered nuclear submarines in response to statements by Dmitry, prompting significant attention. However, primary sources do not confirm the validation essentially of these reports as of today. The alleged actions, which essentially, if true, would signify significant military activity, has prompted speculation about its impact on geopolitical tensions. However, without reliable sources verifying the information, it remains speculative at best. Financial markets and essentially official channels have shown no reactions to the proposed social media post. Key individuals, also including cryptocurrencies and defense experts, have withheld comments due to the lack of substantial evidence backing the claims. It has made it to the news, to be fairly honest, but again, it's not been verified, but it's made it to the news. Analysts suggest that geopolitical uncertainty underscores the need for clear verifications of claims, particularly when speculations fail to deliver corresponding market reactions or policy shifts as seen in other scenarios. So apparently, it's not confirmed whatsoever, but it has made it to the news that there are 2 nuclear submarines somewhere near Russia that Trump has ordered to sit there because he didn't like the conversation he had with Dmitry from Russia. I'm guessing he must have said something or provoked Trump and insulted him. Otherwise, Trump wouldn't be the type of person to send 2 nuclear submarines next to Russia. Because this is in Iran, this is Russia. This could cause off World War III. But World War III is never going to happen anyway, so. Now, it could all just be, you know, rumors that made it to the news to essentially impact the market space and put a bit more pressure on it and so on. Now, moving on from the unverified sources of 2 nuclear submarines might be somewhere near Russia from the United States to FCA. The Financial Conduct Authority in the United Kingdom, which is the equivalent SEC and CFTC inside the United States, has finally approved something inside the crypto space. So, the Financial Conduct Authority unlocks crypto ETNs for UK retail investors. The UK recently essentially opened an avenue for individual cryptocurrency investors. For first time, the Financial Conduct Authority has made cryptocurrency exchange trade notes, ETNs, available to regular consumers. Only ETNs listed on recognized investment exchanges certified by FCA are essentially affected by this move, compared to essentially earlier regulations that only permitted professional clients to trade these assets. The change represents a significant increase. The UK, essentially FCA, is opening its doors for ETNs to the public now. So the public from the retail section can start purchasing ETNs. This could bring liquidity to the table if only the majority of the public in the United Kingdom understood what ETNs were. The FCA confirmed that crypto ETNs must meet strict consumer duty standards to protect investors. Companies must also follow financial promotion rules, hence all product information must be accurate, clear, and not misleading. This move essentially follows a public consultation earlier this year and aims to expand regulated access without sacrificing investor safety. The FCA made one thing clear: crypto markets essentially remain highly volatile, therefore consumers must fully understand the risk before investing in these products. Besides, the Financial Services Compensation Scheme will not cover crypto ETNs. Investors must essentially fully accept responsibilities for any losses that may occur in essentially purchasing cryptocurrencies through ETNs. The FCA will also keep an eye on all promotional material to guarantee accuracy, and businesses that use deceptive essentially advertising or provide inaccurate essentially disclosures will be held accountable. However, ordinary investors are still essentially unable to purchase cryptocurrency derivatives like futures and options, and high-risk assets are still being examined by the FCA, which will essentially revise its stance as necessary. The FCA essentially move brings the UK in line with US, Canada, Hong Kong, and the EU. All these markets already offer structured crypto investment products to retail traders. Earlier this year, London listed professional-only crypto ETNs from 21 shares, Wisdom Tree and Vincigo. However, essentially they saw low trading volumes compared to the US ETFs. Of course, London is going to be having lower volumes than the US ETFs, to be fairly honest. The US ETFs, the US is the biggest market space on the entire planet. Lawrence, the CEO essentially of CEC Capital, welcomed the move. The FCA's move to allow retail access to crypto ETNs on UK exchanges and marks a major turning point, he said. Cases also believes that this shift aligns with the UK with international essentially best practices and offers retail traders a safer option. This essentially guarantees institutional level transparency and oversight that retail traders just did not receive when accessing essentially cryptocurrencies directly. He continued by saying, this could therefore increase liquidity and rebuild consumer confidence in the UK's cryptocurrency markets. It definitely could. Now it probably could. Now that it's open to essentially the public regarding crypto ETNs, it can open doors to public liquidity and in the crypto space. Obviously, the best option when it comes to cryptocurrencies is to buy it yourself and store it yourself. But if you want to take the easy route by going through institutions, you can do that. But just remember one thing, for everybody out there, honestly, for everybody out there inside the retail section who thinks about buying a crypto ETF or a crypto ETP or a crypto ETN, just remember one thing. We're heading towards a very, very strict and regulated world where it's just about censorship, it's about regulations, it's about no freedom of speech, no human rights, invisible prison bars, basically digital, essentially CBDC world, social credit system, and so on. So just think to yourself, is it really a smart idea, if you're from the retail section, forget about institutions, for now the retail section, if you're from the retail section, is it really a smart idea to buy cryptocurrencies through ETNs, ETPs, and essentially ETNs and ETFs? It's really not, because we're going to a very strict world. And remember what BlackRock said. BlackRock wants to use your pension money to fund communities, for example, and you essentially won't have a say in it. The same way people don't have a say in this whole ID checking verification that's going on regarding Spotify, YouTube, and X, and essentially anything else that's essentially around us. Everything will require an ID now going forward. We're just becoming very strict world. So do you really want your cryptocurrencies and ETPs and ETFs and ETNs as a retail member, or would you rather just buy them yourself and store them yourself? You can always take the easy option in life, but whenever you take the easy option in life, most of the times it backfires. What I'm trying to say is, if you want to be inside cryptocurrencies, understand what cryptocurrencies are, buy them and store them yourself. Because the world that we're heading into is a very manipulated world. Not financial advice at all. At all. Now, before we go through the next essentially news on tonight's live, let's go inside the comment section first, and then we go straight into the next news. As I said previously, I read everybody's comments one by one and give a response. So if you do have a question or statement, put it down inside the comment section. Now, let's go inside the comment section. Let's see what's going on. Miles XLM is in position for a breakout. You agree? If we get a rate cut, it's definitely having a breakout. Miles, what about ACH? I haven't heard you mention them for a while. There hasn't been much news on it, to be fairly honest, but it's still a good project. Let's go, Ian. Subs are always around their mouths. Let's go, Ian. ID checking, yes. Not on my live, obviously, and Dante, Dent. ID checking on YouTube is going to become a thing. So the UK, Canada, America, the EU, and Australia. These continents and countries are essentially bringing in ID check. Roughly 20 American states already are putting in ID checks. Also, the ID check regulation that's passing through very quietly, it technically in America, they're doing it in a way where it doesn't go against your first commandment of, freedom of speech and so on. So ID check essentially, even though it should, because it's about privacy and freedom of speech, but it doesn't. So even though America has the first commandment has no use case when it comes to this new law that's passing for a very regulated digital world where everybody's data is tracked. You have no say, even if you have, the first commandment inside the United States, you're still going to get ID checked. Your data is always going to be at risk as well. Especially when governments use third-party companies, then your data is especially at risk in a digital world. But, this is what I mean, the UK, the EU, Australia, Canada, and America. All of them. They're becoming regulated CBDC, social credit system, data tracking worlds right now. Back to back like a domino effect. And the ironic part is the first commandment means jack squat regarding this ID law that's passing very quietly, even inside the United States. So think of it like that. They don't really care who's against the CBDC world. It's happening whether people like it or not. Now, US Treasury is what we're going to talk about next. I've heard essentially the price of silver is going to drop a lot. I've heard both sides. Silver's going to go up, silver's going to drop. I've heard both sides, to be fairly honest. Let's see which one plays out. Hello again, beautiful people. Let's go, Thompson. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? How did all these places agree on this? How did essentially all of the... I'm struggling to believe this. You're struggling to believe that the UK, Canada, US, EU, and Australia are doing this to people? Well, they don't really need your permission. In the UK, they passed this law because they said it's good because we're censoring, people who are under the age of 16 to not be able to, or under the age of 18, to not be able to use certain things online because you're safeguarding the younger generation from seeing inappropriate things online. Is what they're using as a reference. And a lot of people signed a petition to get that revoked. And the petition went to essentially the courts, and the courts ruled in favor of, take a guess, the government. Because I don't know, the court, because if you look at it, the whole system is rigged. Of course, the court is not going to, give it in favor of the people. The courts never give it to the favor of the people. If it's the government versus the people, the court is obviously going to give it in favor of the government, especially nowadays where everything's very, very manipulated. But yeah, so they tried to do it in the UK and it passed, and the people tried to revoke it. It didn't work. And then essentially, Australia started passing laws one by one. So Reddit, YouTube, Blue Sky, X. In any of these platforms, essentially, you try to post anything against certain topics, ban. If you try to essentially post anything against certain topics, ban, block completely. And in some cases, you could get a fine and a prison sentence. In the US, a lot of people don't see it coming because you have obviously Trump as the president of the United States, who is very big on the First Commandment, who essentially, who's very big on the idea of freedom of speech. And it's not because it's just a big look or whatever, or big illusion. Trump really does stand for freedom of speech. He really does stand for freedom of speech. He tries his best to make it happen. But unfortunately, the US is also filled with a lot of politicians, too much politicians, too many politicians, a lot of senators, governors, Supreme Courts, who also, go against the president naturally. And in the US, they're essentially passing in under 20 states. In under 20 states, they've already passed some sort of laws for regulating of censorship online, regarding essentially platforms like YouTube and essentially platforms like X, platforms like Blue Sky, Reddit, Spotify, Microsoft, essentially. In terms of Xbox, PlayStation is going to get essentially censored as well. Everything around you, they're saying it's, to safeguard the younger generation. It's got nothing to do with the younger generation. It's more in the sense of they want to, okay. So today I met up with a friend. I was supposed to go somewhere with my mother because I want to take her out. But instead I met up with a friend because plans fell through. So I was having a conversation with my friend today regarding digital prisons, and essentially, the bars are there, but you can't see them. And he was asking me the question of, why are we at a stage of this is happening? Why are we at the stage of social credit systems, CBDCs, digital prisons, 15-minute cities that people can't see, and so on? And I said the easiest answer is that we've come to a stage in life where there's many reasons, but this is one of them. We've come to a stage in life where people are just not bothered anymore, where people are coming to the realization of, why am I paying taxes? People are coming to the realization of, why am I working until I'm, 78? People are coming to the realization of, why am I doing this? Why am I doing that? Why am I helping my, this government who doesn't care about me? Why am I paying council tax when the council doesn't fix the roads? And so on. And people are coming to this level right now. Everybody around the world, in Western countries especially as well. A lot of people are just coming to the realization of, why am I doing this? Why am I doing that? What's the point of this? And before we reach a level of everybody coming to that realization, they're going to be rolling out these digital prisons pretty much that you can't see the bars, but they're going to be there. So before everybody comes to realization of, just know, the digital prisons will be rolling out. The digital world will be rolling out. The censorship will be rolling out. The freedom of speech will slowly go away. Privacy will slowly go away. And it's already starting. So that's one of the reasons why essentially we're going to digital. Obviously, there's many reasons, other reasons as well. One of them being essentially liquidity is drying up and we need to go to a digital world. But then again, we already had digital payments, to be fairly honest as well, regarding MasterCard and Visa and so on, Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, Google Pay. We already had that. So the bigger thing is control. We're coming to a stage where a lot of people around the world just can't be bothered anymore. People just are coming to the realization of, why am I working? I wasn't put on this planet to work 24/7. I wasn't put on this planet to work and pay taxes. I wasn't put on this planet to work and pay council tax, and so on. Be trapped in a work that most people don't like, or be trapped essentially in situations that you don't like to be in. And people come to the realization of, why was I born? To slave away and then pass away? So before everybody comes to this realization, this digital prison is going to roll out. So even if you do come to that realization, you can't do anything about it. So this is why I say it's very important to be in projects like XRP. And when I said that, to be in projects like XRP, my friend smirked. And I said, why are you smirking? And it's probably because I've been telling this friend for, the past 5 years to buy XRP. And I said, look, because of this digital world that we're heading into, you need to understand who is going to play a role in this digital world. And you can't go against, essentially the people that are about to be running the show. Blockchain companies that are going to be running the show. You can't go against them. It's bigger plans in motion. I said there's an old saying, if you can't beat them, join them. That's exactly what you got to do. Because you can't beat this thing that's coming. Nobody can essentially get away from CBDCs or social credit systems or this censorship that's going on right now. Step by step, step by step. And next time when they have a COVID situation and they tell people COVID 2.0 has started, everybody needs to go home, people will have to listen. You know why? Because their money is owned by the central bank. And if they don't listen, they'll take it away. And it will come to a stage where they'll say to you, if you live on CBDCs, it will come to a stage where you would say, I want to make a purchase. And the bank would say, no. The bank would say, what do you want to buy? And you would say, I want to buy this thing, and it's going to cost $5,000. And the bank will go, no. And you can't do nothing about it. As crazy as that might sound, but that's where we're heading towards. Not overnight, but by the time we get to 2027, the whole world will be turned upside down. They're going to have so much control. And this is why I say it's extremely important to understand cryptocurrencies. This is why at the beginning of the live, when I was explaining what this live show is and what we talk about, and this is episode 347, that essentially it's that cryptocurrencies could pretty much save your life. It could save your family's life. As stupid or as funny as that may sound to some people, but cryptocurrencies could literally save your life going into a digital world. Because if all you have in a CBDC or the CBDCs, then you're trapped. But if you have cryptocurrencies, you have an alternative. That's not all cryptocurrencies, because liquidity will dry up in some tokens or majority of tokens. Be some blockchains that will running the show, and the others will be on the sidelines. But this is why I say it's extremely important, and it could literally save your life if people just understood that more. But there's so much happening around you, most people don't realize it. Also, distraction is one of the biggest things. Let me tell you a funny story regarding distraction, where people right now inside the UK, I'll give you the example of what's going on, and then I'll give you the story. It's a very quick one. It's a 5-second story. So, for example, in the UK, they started censorship with 18+ websites that are for certain purposes. And everybody on TikTok, everybody on Instagram, everybody on YouTube, even on the news, they're making fun of, people can't have fun by themselves at home on certain websites anymore. And people are making these funny videos, and everybody's distracted on this idea of, oh, you can't have some personal time anymore. And people are so fixated on that, not realizing the bigger picture of, hang on a minute, this is just the start of pure, full censorship into a CBDC, social system, carbon footprint world. People are not realizing any of that. The majority of people are not realizing any of that. And they're so fixated on that, you can't have personal time on some websites. Okay. A long time ago, there was a city or a small-sized village in Iran, for example. And no word of a lie, this city or village had no electrics, pretty much, no water, no gas. This city had so much, essentially, issues going on. The people was frustrated. It had no water, no gas, no electrics. And everybody was frustrated. Everybody was angry. Imagine, the majority of the day, you don't have running water in your house. You don't have running electricity, running gas in your house. And you're just angry and frustrated. So people were so angry they would go outside and, protest and hold up placards and so on. And then one day in that particular city, they passed the law. The law was that you can't rip one out because it'd be counted as you would essentially a felony, and you could get a fine if you fought in public. They passed the law with this. They passed the law that if you fought, essentially you will get a fine. Now you may be thinking, what's the relevance of this story? Well, in a city where they didn't have running gas, running water, running electrics, and people were frustrated and protesting, one day they passed the law that you're not allowed to fight in public because you'll get a fine. And then people were completely, everybody forgot about they don't have electrics and gas and running water at home. And everybody was just making these videos and these gestures, going in the street, ripping one out, filming themselves and going, oh, look, essentially I've just committed a felony. Do you see how easy people get distracted? Those people forgot about they have no running water, no electricity, no gas in their households, barely any jobs. But because they passed the law of you can't rip one out in public, people just forgot about all of that and started making these videos and, oh, look, I just committed a felony. This is how easy people get distracted. And this is why the world is the way it is, because it's never going to change. Because the majority of the people on this world are just not essentially that bright and extremely forgetful. So going back to the UK thing, essentially, or the American thing, or essentially the Canadian thing, or the Australian thing, or the European thing, that everybody's making these gestures and these funny videos and going, oh, you can't have personal time at home anymore because they're censoring these websites. And they're making these funny videos of, oh, I can't have any quiet time to myself anymore because I need my passport checked. What about if I use my dad's passport to get on these websites? And they're making these funny videos. And they're not realizing the bigger picture of censorship is just the start. CBDC, social credit systems, invisible, essentially prison bars, digital prison bars. Everything is coming towards your way. So, honestly, so knowing all of that, honestly, knowing and understanding all of that people are just lost. There's no way anybody's going to be able to fight this system. The system that's being rolled out with the socials, carbon footprint, and so on, nobody's going to be able to stop it, because if these are our companions who don't realize the bigger picture, then there's no chance. So your best option is, if you can't beat them, join them. Which means if this is about to roll out and my alternative is blockchain, 100% I'm going headfirst into it. And this is why, I say cryptocurrencies can save your life, literally save your life and save your family's life. Because the other alternative is the people rising up. I'm sorry, but no chance. Literally no chance. You have a higher chance of winning the lottery 52 times in one day then essentially your companions around you realizing the bigger picture and standing up. So this is why if you can't beat them, join them. Cryptocurrencies can literally save your life. On that note of the world is going towards blockchain, CBDC's carbon footprints, also there's been discussions about how everybody will have their own carbon footprint. And let's just say if you can't afford to travel, for example, and you have stored up carbon footprint you haven't used, you can sell your carbon footprint to people who are much more wealthier, which then they could go traveling with the carbon footprint you saved up, because you don't have money, because obviously you're on CBDCs. It's going to become a very strange world, a very, very, very strange world. Now, it all comes down to control. Facts, Thompson. Yes, that is so true. Yep, Thompson, let's go. The West is, hi Miles, Richard, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Digital money is programmable. Facts, Thompson. Freedom has always been an illusion. We are only free as they allow us to be. Facts. No to CBDCs. Let's go. Miles, you missed all my messages. Funky brother, I'm so sorry. All your messages. Funky brother, your messages didn't come up. That's the thing. Your last message, Funky brother, was when you said hello. The rest of your messages didn't come up. Digital money is programmable. Facts. The West is completely cooked, though, bro. At a certain point, you really got to ask why. Honestly. XRP, let's go. These are bribing everybody. When do you think will be the cutoff period to buy financial projects? Would it be a cutoff period? Next year could be a cutoff period. 2027 is pretty much the end date for everything to be fully digitalized. Even though, say, by 2030 you won't earn anything and you'll be happy, is what basically the motto was from the World Economic Forum. You'll own nothing and be happy. Some people think they were bluffing when they said those words. The World Economic Forum doesn't bluff. Everything they say, take it very, very essentially truth as factual information. Yes, that's so true. Let's go. Yep, the Minority Report on steroids. Facts. It all comes down to control. Yep. Certainly. Been a while since we mentioned the protest. Let's go, Ray. Yeah, those placards, people. Facts. If you can't beat them, join them. All business, nothing personal. Absolutely facts. Let's go, Thompson. Cryptocurrencies equals a facts, a lifeline, basically. That's most comprehensive wallet. Let's go. So, and Funky Brother, none of your messages popped up. The last message that was inside the comment section was regarding when you said hi. So, I don't think your messages are coming up. Type them again, see if they come up. And also, it's also a key indication of how close we are, and how close we are to XRP. US Treasury is exploring blockchain for payments and decentralized computing. The US Treasury is now working on ways to use blockchain for payments and decentralized computing. So the US Treasury is actually mentioning that they're going towards blockchain now for payments, finance. This is big. According to the Treasury Secretary, Scott Benson, who made the announcement today, he retweeted that the move was a part of the broader plan under President Donald Trump to make our country a global crypto leader. Under POTUS, we are exploring new possibilities in decentralized computing and digital payments to unlock the potential of blockchain technology, Scott said. This announcement comes just days after Paul Atkins, the current SEC chair, launched essentially a new initiative called Project Crypto. The program essentially is meant to help the agency come up with policy ideas and assist the Trump administration in building a legal system for cryptocurrencies. Scott also used his post to tell crypto entrepreneurs to start companies, launch protocols, and hire workers inside the United States. In essentially OPID published on Thursday, essentially the Washington Post, Scott said innovation requires balanced, forward-thinking regulations. He claimed that essentially Trump's actions since returning to office have helped him rebuild trust inside essentially the crypto industry, which he said was suffocated under Biden's administration. Scott accused President Joe Biden of using regulators to block banks from touching crypto. He also said that the former White House tried to limit or eliminate Bitcoin mining entirely and allowed essentially former SEC Chairman Gary Gensler to target crypto startups and essentially with aggressive legal threats. But since Trump returned, Scott said the message has been different. We stood at the inflection point in November, and Trump's victory was a clear message to the world that Americans reject managed decline and essentially suppression of innovation, he wrote. Scott also said that during his first week essentially in office, Trump told agencies to remove the anti-crypto guidance written by Biden's administration. He also directed them to stop enforcement actions that punished companies just for being inside the crypto space, which means Ripple's case has to get dropped. Scott also pointed to essentially the new law signed by Trump, the Guiding and Establishing essentially National Innovation for U.S. Stablecoins Act, also called the Genius Act, as the framework for stablecoin regulations. The law gives the dollar-pegged stablecoins pretty much a green card. He claimed that this would essentially attract users to the dollar, boosting demand for U.S. Treasury bills, reducing borrowing costs, and helping to keep the dollar the world's top currency. He also brought up Digital Asset Market Clarity Act of 2025, which recently passed the House of Representatives. The bill essentially would define which agency, either the SEC or CFTC, regulates specific crypto activities. It uses models from traditional finance to assess essentially assign responsibilities and would help end users of uncertainty. Scott also warned that if the Senate doesn't act essentially on the bill, the president's larger plans cannot be completed. He said the industry needs the proper legal structures to grow inside the country, the former Wall Street essentially star said. On November 4th, 2024 was America's hard fork on digital assets. Since taking office, President Trump has righted the wrongs of his predecessors essentially by fashioning the United States into a crypto super powerhouse. As a part of this effort, Trump picked David Sachs as the long-term essentially tech founder as the new AI and crypto Caesar. He also removed essentially top regulators who had blocked crypto innovation and replaced them with people who support this space. Scott also confirmed that several high-profile cases brought by the old SEC have now been dropped. These include lawsuits essentially that had put essentially crypto exchanges and protocols under legal pressure for years, which is again another reason why they need to drop the Ripple case now, pretty much you could say. Scott also ended his op by saying regulatory certainty is essential in cementing essentially our status as a crypto capital of the world, just as essential as executing on the recommendations from today's reports on crypto regulations. These are all indications that the Ripple case is going to be dropped. To be fairly honest, from my point of view, the Ripple case has to be dropped. With the SEC now, Scott mentioning more pro-crypto innovation capital of the United States dropping cases, well, next should be the Ripple case if they're this much pro-crypto as they're claiming to be. Otherwise, it doesn't really show that they're potentially pro-crypto continuing a Ripple case forward. So that's why it's an indication they're going to drop it. Now, CME, XRP futures is what we're going to talk about next. So the CME XRP futures has achieved record highs. In July 2025, the reports have come out from July 2025 now. Due to increasing institutional demand and optimism about potential ETF approvals and Ripple's proactive expansion strategies, including seeking a US banking license, XRP futures purchases have went through the roof. So we may not have an XRP ETF yet, but the XRP futures are actually just blowing past right now, which just shows you that if we do have an XRP ETF, what could possibly happen? Approvers essentially and Ripple's proactive expansion strategies on getting their banking license is obviously the boosting factor. This surge highlights the growing institutional interest in regulated crypto derivatives, driven by the broader regulatory clarity and sufficient essentially market shifts impacting major cryptocurrencies like XRP, Ethereum, and Solana. The Chicago essentially exchange CME recorded all-time highs for its XRP futures in essentially data coming out from July 2025. Institutional demand surged, driven by optimism surrounding potential ETF approvals and renowned regulatory clarity in cryptocurrency landscapes. Key players include essentially CME Group and Ripple Labs, with Ripple pursuing essentially a US banking license, specific actions centered around essentially CME's leadership in crypto derivatives, enhancing institutional confidence in regulated products. XRP futures saw over 9,100 contracts traded essentially on July 11th, marking an unprecedented single-day volume. This essentially activity highlights a strong institutional interest in XRP and reflects broader market optimism. Financially, over $1.6 billion in XRP futures traded on CME. Underscoring the regulatory momentum, essentially, market participants anticipate forthcoming regulatory developments to support this trend further, as noted essentially by CME Active Trader. The record essentially underscores the rapidly growing demand in our new XRP futures suite. Broader essentially market implications include similar rallies in Ethereum and Solana buoyed by the Genius Act. These assets experienced essentially increase of about 60 to 30%, respectively, influenced by shared regulatory sentiments and asset price dynamics. Potential outcomes from this trend include increased institutional involvements and essentially expensive regulatory changes. Historical precedents from BTC and Ethereum futures indicate possible volatility and asset essentially inflows, suggesting a shifting essentially landscape for cryptocurrency markets. XRP futures went through the roof in July. The reports come out today. In July, XRP futures purchases went through the roof, highest possibly to date. It's all an indication of when we do actually have an XRP ETF, what's going to be happening, because the institutions are interested. If XRP futures are bringing in this amount of volume, this amount of liquidity to the table, they're just XRP futures. Imagine what XRP ETFs could bring to the table from institutional sales. Just want to leave everybody on a final note. That's day by day, we're getting closer, extremely closer to a CBDC, social credit system, and carbon footprint world. And censorship is step number one. where if you say or do something or go against it, you're censored, which means nobody could go against it. That's why censorship is step number one. Because if they roll out CBDCs and there's no censorship, then everybody's going to go online on X, on TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram, make videos about, CBDCs when they get rolled out and say, who wants to use CBDCs? This is bad. This is trash. I don't want to be trapped. But if they roll out censorship first and then CBDCs, who's going to complain? Because if you try to complain about CBDCs online, you're censored. Already certain videos are censored online to all ages. And if you post the wrong thing or say the wrong thing, you get banned. So that is why before essentially CBDCs of retail CBDCs and essentially wholesale CBDCs and social credit systems and essentially carbon footprints get rolled out, censorship was step number one, to silence you first and then give you the CBDCs. So when they do give you the CBDCs, who are you going to complain to? Nobody. Because if you try to complain on Facebook, they'll ban you or censor you. Try to complain on YouTube, same thing. Instagram, same thing. X, same thing. Reddit, same thing. You try to say it out loud, it's not going to work because nobody's listening. So that is why essentially censorship is step number one of a CBDC world and a social credit system world and a carbon footprint world. So when it gets rolled out, you can't say anything about it and you can't do anything about it. Because nobody's listening or you'll get banned. So knowing all of this, that is step one, and what step two is going to be is the rollout. Do you really want to be left behind and stuck inside of this world? Or do you want to be a part of something bigger, something that could change your life and your family's life? If you haven't already, and if you have already, well done to you. If you haven't already, XRP, in my opinion, will save lives. My opinion, my perspective. Like it, don't like it, it's where I stand. XRP will save lives. And day by day, we're getting closer to that digital world. Really close to that digital world. When the UK, Canada, US, EU, and Australia are on the same page. Day by day, we're getting closer. So if you're not an XRP and you're in a CBDC world, good luck to you. On that note, we have also reached the endings of tonight's live. And don't worry about the market space. The market is going to essentially, next week, go back to normal. You saw what happened when you mentioned CBDCs on TikTok? Exactly. We have reached the endings of tonight's live. If you're watching this for the first time ever, this live is called the CMF Live. It stands for Crypto Mouse Family. My name is Miles. You can tune to this live Monday to Friday, 10 p.m. London time onwards for the latest cryptocurrency, CBDC, AI, Web3 news and regulations. The disclaimer of this live, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. And this was episode 347 of the CMF Live. Episode 348 will be on Monday at 10 p.m. London time. So, like, comment, share, retweet, follow, subscribe. If you've already done that, thank you so much. If you haven't liked, comment, subscribe, followed, or retweeted, please do so. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Obviously, before we do go, let's go inside the comment section first, and then we'll call it a night. Let's see where we were at inside the comment section. We were at here. An XRP ETF will surely make us wealthy. The price will be significant in my thinking. I agree 100%. Onwards and upwards, Miles. Let's go. Scary. Good. I'm in. Let's go. Anyone not believing XRP, XNM, XDC, HBOL, let me know. I'm willing to purchase, share the live. Let's go, Miles. Hi, Miles, the CMF family. Sorry I'm late, but I watched the live show again. Hope you'll find my friend. Let's go, Carl. How you doing, brother? Thompson, let's go. An XRP ETF will surely make us wealthy. I agree 100%. Great job tonight, Miles, aka my mentor. Let's go, Scott. Thanks so much for the kind words. Absolutely, definitely waiting. Me too, Scott. Let's go. No, buy the tokens and store them safely. Let's go. Hi, I'm Filipino. Rain, how you doing? From Philippines. You saw what happened when you mentioned CBDC on TikTok. Facts. Also, XLM will help as well. I agree 100%. Facts, Miles. Let's go, Ian. Good night, Miles, and all the CMF. Thank you for a great live and news. See everybody on Monday. Night, Miles and CMF. JP, see you on Monday, brother. Same time as usual. Pablo, see you on Monday, same time as usual. Thank you, Miles. Good night. Have a great weekend. Let's go, Mike. See you on Monday, same time as usual as well, brother. Have a great weekend as well. Good night. Let's go, Scott. See you on Monday, brother. Same time as usual. Great show. Let's go, be Pisces. See you on Monday, same time as usual. Good night, Miles and CMF. Hope enjoy your weekend. Let's go, Carl. See you on Monday as well. Enjoy your weekend. Good night, Miles, and see you Monday night. Let's go, funky brother. See you on Monday, same time as usual, brother, as well. Congratulations, Miles, on episode 347. Thank you so much, Scott. Great live, great Friday live, and like, share, comment, full support. Take care, Miles and CMF. Peace, peace. Let's go, Ray. See you on Monday, same time as usual, brother. Have a great weekend, CMF. See you on Monday. Thanks, Miles. Orphan. See you on Monday, same time as usual. God willing. Let's go, funky brother, on Monday. Thank you, Bunch Miles. Have a lovely weekend. All. Let's go, Lena. See you on Monday, same time as usual. Good night, Miles and family. Great live. Many thanks. Have a great weekend. See you on Monday. Let's go, Ian. See you on Monday, same time as usual. Thanks, Miles, for your hard work. It is very appreciative, honestly. We all appreciate your transparency. Thanks to you, we are less blind on the crypto markets. Well done, brother. Have a nice weekend. Carl, thank you so much for the kind words, honestly. My family have an outstanding weekend. Let's go, Scott, and let's go, Mike. I will see everybody on Monday, same timing as usual, 10 p.m. London time onwards, for the next episode of CMF Live on Monday at 10 p.m. for episode 348. Like, share, comment, retweet if you already haven't. Everybody have a great weekend. I'll see everybody on Monday. Love you all. See you on Monday, same time as usual. Have a great weekend. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow, retweet if you already haven't. And thank you so much to everybody who has already done those things. See you on Monday.